The picked feeds show it standing in the vault, surrounded by 23 dead enforcers, and it's looking directly at the surveillance lens like it wanted to be recorded. I am Commander Victus Halloran, Planetary Defense Force, Gravis Prime, 30 years of faithful service to the God Emperor. I know what monsters look like. This is something else. Gravis Prime is a hive world, population 42 billion, tithes delivered on schedule for 3 centuries, loyal to the God Emperor, beyond question. I command the 3rd Spire Regiment, 12,000 men, responsible for maintaining order in the upper Hive sectors, where the Administratum keeps the planetary government running smoothly. My daily briefings include the usual: gang violence in the Underhive, acceptable losses, worker riots in Manufactorium 7. Suppressed within standard parameters, 3 attempted assassinations of minor nobles last week, 2 successful, all investigations closed per Arbeit's recommendation. This is order. This is civilization. This is what 10,000 years of Imperial rule looks like when it's functioning correctly. Governor Malachi keeps the tithes flowing. The Ministorum keeps the masses faithful. The Arbeites keep the criminals afraid. I keep the peace between all of them. It's not pretty, but it works. The Emperor protects those who serve him faithfully. 3 weeks ago, my duty officer woke me at 0300 hours with a report that made no sense. Unknown hostile. Sector 7 Gamma. 17 dead gang members. No Las burns. No promethium residue. No apparent cause of death. I assumed it was poison gas, maybe a rival gang with better tech. The Underhive breeds creative killers. Then the surveillance footage arrived, and I watched it 37 times before I filed my report. A shape. Moving through darkness, winged, fast, faster than my eye could track, even when I slowed the playback to quarter speed. The gang members were all throat-slashed, wrist broken, spine snapped, close quarters, intimate violence, professional. But what disturbed me was the symbol carved into the warehouse floor. A bat-like sigil, perfectly symmetrical, burned into the rockcrete with something that left no chemical trace. The Mechanicus adepts who examined it wept, literally wept, said the precision required tools not catalogued in the standard template constructs. I ordered increased patrols, filed the report as unknown Xenos incursion, investigation ongoing. That night, it hit 3 more locations simultaneously across the Hive. 21 incidents in 4 days, all in different sectors, all following the same methodology. Infiltration, violence, interrogation, that damned symbol. My intelligence officer, Lieutenant Crane, is good at his job. He noticed the connections I missed. Every target was corrupt. Gang lords running flesh trade operations, enforcers taking bribes from off-world smugglers, administratum clerks falsifying tithe records, minor nobles trafficking in prohibited xenotech. "It's hunting criminals," Crane said, as if that made sense. Selective targeting, precise intelligence gathering. I asked him what Xenos species operates like that, what chaos cult follows that methodology. He had no answer. Neither did I. The Arbeites claimed jurisdiction, investigated for 3 days, then quietly withdrew their request and refused to discuss their findings. That should have told me something. That should have been the warning. Governor Malachi summoned me personally on day 8. First time in 8 years I've been called to the upper palace. His office is beautiful. Stained glass depicting the Emperor's glory. Golden Aquilas, marble floors imported from Terra itself, or so he claims. He sat behind a desk made from a single slab of adamantium, wearing robes that cost more than my annual salary, and he looked afraid. "Commander Halloran, this Xenos infiltrator represents a clear and present threat to planetary stability. The administratum is concerned. We cannot allow panic to spread." He gave me full tactical authority, unrestricted access to surveillance networks, authorization to mobilize additional regiments if necessary. "Kill it," he said, quietly, "before anyone important notices." I saluted, asked if he knew what we were dealing with. He smiled, but his hands were shaking. "Just a Xenos, Commander. Nothing the God Emperor's faithful servants cannot handle." As I left, I noticed his personal guard had tripled, all off-worlders, all carrying weapons I didn't recognize. "Standard security procedure," I told myself. "The governor is being cautious." That's what I told myself. I deployed 6 companies across the upper Hive sectors, established observation posts at every major junction, installed new surveillance equipment at every site the creature had hit. My men called it the Noctis Veneta, the Night Hunter. Soldiers need names for their enemies. Makes them feel less helpless. We reviewed endless picked captures, blurred images of something moving through shadows, shapes that didn't conform to any Xenos classification in our data slates. Tech Priest Valorian examined the evidence and declared it abominable xenotech, possibly archaeotech derivative. Recommendation immediate inquisitorial notification. I delayed that recommendation. The Inquisition burns entire worlds for lesser contaminations. I wanted to solve this ourselves. Day 10. It disabled the defense turrets protecting the administratum sector without firing a shot. My tech adepts found the turret cogitators had been reprogrammed, not corrupted by scrap code, not virus-bombed, but methodically rewritten using code architecture they'd never seen before. "This is Dark Age technology," Valorian whispered. "This is heresy beyond measure." Day 11. It infiltrated Enforcer Captain Dren's personal hab unit, interrogated him for approximately 40 minutes, then left him alive, sitting in his chair, staring at the wall. Dren reported for duty the next morning, refused medical examination, requested immediate transfer to a penal legion. When I asked him what happened, he said it asked him questions, Commander. About justice, about duty, about the things we ignore because they're convenient. He hung himself 3 days later. Left a note. "I understand now. We're the criminals. I ordered the note destroyed. Couldn't risk morale damage. More survivors started appearing. People the creature interrogated but didn't kill. A merchant who'd been selling children to pleasure houses in the Underhive. It dropped from the ceiling, broke both my arms, asked me if I'd ever considered the suffering I caused, asked if I thought the God Emperor approved. Then it left, just left, an Arbeitsjudge who'd been taking bribes to dismiss murder charges. It knew everything, every case, every bribe, every name. It had evidence I didn't think existed. It said, 'Your law is broken. Justice requires fixing.' What does that even mean? A manufactorum overseer who'd been working thousands to death to meet quotas. It wanted to know why I pushed them so hard. I told it. The tithes, the quotas, the Imperium demands it. And it said, that's not good enough. I interviewed 17 survivors personally. Every one of them showed the same symptoms: psychological trauma, questioning of authority, inability to resume normal duties. 6 requested ecclesiarchal counseling. 4 joined flagellant cults. 3 simply vanished into the underhive. The creature was doing more than gathering intelligence. It was converting people, making them doubt. That's when I understood. This wasn't just Xenos infiltration. This was ideological warfare. I started tracking the creature's investigation, trying to predict its next target. Lieutenant Crane helped me map the connections. Corrupt officials, criminal syndicates, off-world smuggling operations, all feeding into the governor's household. "Sir," Crane said carefully, "what if it's not random? What if it's following the money?" I reviewed the tithe records personally, something I'd never done before because that's administratum work, not military work. The numbers were wrong, subtle. You'd miss it if you weren't looking. But Gravis Prime's production should have been 50% higher, based on population and industrial capacity. Someone was skimming billions of throne gelt. Across decades, the trail led to Governor Malachi's household steward, to his trade minister, to his personal accounts. I sat in my office, staring at the data slates, feeling something I hadn't felt in 30 years. Doubt. The governor I was protecting was stealing from the God Emperor, stealing from the Imperium, stealing from us. But I filed the report properly, sent it to the administratum, requested investigation. The response came back within an hour. Inquiry noted. No action required. Resume normal duties. That's when I knew. Everyone knew. Everyone always knew. We just accepted it, because this is how the Imperium works. The Night Hunter hit the Arbite's precinct house directly on day 19, something even Orc warbands avoid. It infiltrated during shift change, disabled all security systems, accessed the central data core, and downloaded 70 years of case files before anyone noticed. 3 Arbites dead, 17 wounded. All survivors reported the same thing. It wasn't trying to kill us. It was just getting past us. The precinct marshal, a man I'd known for 20 years, looked physically ill when I arrived. "What was it looking for?" I asked. He handed me a data slate. Closed cases, unsolved murders, missing persons, all involving nobles, administratum officials, or off-worlders. All filed as insufficient evidence source case, dismissed by superior authority. I scrolled through the files. Murdered witnesses, disappeared investigators, families who reported crimes and then vanished. Thousands of cases, decades of evidence, all buried, all ignored. Why? I asked. The marshal looked at me like I was a child. Because that's the system, Halloran. That's how it works. We enforce the laws that matter. We ignore the laws that don't. Who decides which laws matter? He didn't answer, but we both knew. Morale was deteriorating. My soldiers were asking questions I couldn't answer. "Sir, why are we protecting these people?" Sergeant Voss asked during a tactical briefing. "Everything it's targeting, they're criminals. By our own laws, they should be executed." I gave him the standard answer. "We serve the Imperium. We maintain order. Personal judgment is irrelevant." But he pressed. "It killed the flesh traders in Sector 9. We've been ignoring those flesh traders for 5 years because they pay the Arbite's protection money. Are we really the good guys here, sir?" I disciplined him. 20 lashes for questioning orders. Standard punishment. He took the lashes without complaint, reported back to duty the next day. But I saw it in his eyes. I saw it in all their eyes. Doubt, confusion, anger. The creature wasn't just hunting criminals. It was making us see them, making us acknowledge what we'd been ignoring. Governor Malachi summoned me again on day 25. This time, he wasn't calm. "It's coming for me, Commander. I know it is. Every target, every attack, it's all leading here." I asked him why a Xenos creature would target him specifically. His face went very still. Very pale. "I don't know. I'm a loyal servant of the Emperor. I've done nothing wrong." But his hands were shaking. His eyes kept darting to the doors. "I need you to understand something, Halloran. There are complexities to governance, necessities that people like you don't see. The tithes must be met. Alliances must be maintained. Sometimes we make accommodations." "What accommodations, Governor?" He stood up, walked to the window overlooking the Hive. "Do you know how many people live in this spire? How many depend on the stability I provide? If the Administratum investigated every minor irregularity, every small efficiency I've implemented, it would cause chaos. The system works because we know when to look away." I felt something cold forming in my chest. "What are you telling me, sir?" "I'm telling you to kill that thing, Commander. Before it exposes details that will hurt everyone. Before it undermines the order we've built. Before it makes everyone question what keeps them fed and safe." He turned back to me. "You're a soldier. You understand necessary sacrifices. Sometimes we protect the system, not the individuals." "That's loyalty," I saluted, left his office, stood in the corridor for 10 minutes, trying to remember why I'd taken the oath of service in the first place. It left a message on day 26, broadcast across every Vox channel in the upper Hive, just once, in perfect Gothic, with Terra standard accent. "Citizens of Gravis Prime, your leadership is corrupt beyond redemption. I have compiled evidence of trafficking, embezzlement, murder, and systematic exploitation. In 72 hours, I will deliver this evidence to your authorities. Justice requires transparency. Your Emperor deserves better servants. 72 hours, 3 days, the Governor declared martial law, locked down the upper Hive, ordered my entire regiment to defend the palace approaches. The Ministorum called emergency masses, preaching about Xenos deception and demonic corruption, reminding the faithful that questioning authority is heresy. The Administratum sealed all off-world communications, claiming technical difficulties. Everyone mobilized to stop one creature from reaching one building. I stood on the palace ramparts, looking at 12,000 troops, defense turrets, void shield generators, enough firepower to level a city block. All to protect one man, one corrupt man, one criminal who wore a governor's seal. Lieutenant Crane stood beside me. "Sir, what if we just let it deliver the evidence?" "What if we let the proper authorities handle this?" I looked at him. "The proper authorities already know, Lieutenant. They've always known. This is the system working as intended." His face went very still. "Then what are we defending, sir?" I didn't have an answer. I couldn't sleep that night. Kept reviewing the evidence Crane had compiled about the governor's activities. Not just embezzlement, human trafficking, murder for hire, deals with Xenos traders, suppression of tithes meant for the Imperial war effort, acts that would normally merit execution, acts that the Administratum knew about and ignored. I thought about my 30 years of service, every order I'd followed, every question I'd never asked. How many crimes had I protected? How many criminals had I defended? How many times had I looked away, because that's how it works? I pulled up my personal logs, counted the times I'd been ordered not to investigate, ordered to close cases, ordered to reclassify evidence, 237 times. 237 times I'd served corruption instead of the Emperor. At dawn, I walked to the Ministorum chapel in the military quarter, knelt before the golden Aquila, prayed for guidance. The priest found me there 3 hours later. The God Emperor tests his servants, Commander. Faith means serving even when we don't understand. Trust in the system he established. I wanted to believe that. Emperor, I wanted to believe, but when I closed eyes, all I could see was that bat symbol, burned into walls, carved into flesh, a mark that said, I see what you pretend not to see. On day 29, I deployed my forces according to optimal defensive doctrine. Kill zones at every approach, overlapping fields of fire, rapid response teams in reserve. We were ready, more ready than we'd ever been. The troops were nervous, asking questions I couldn't answer. Sir, if this thing is so dangerous, why hasn't the Inquisition been called? Why are we handling it alone? Because the Inquisition would ask questions, would investigate, would see what we've been hiding. I briefed my officers one last time, showed them the surveillance footage, explained the tactics we'd observed. This enemy is fast, precise, and methodical. It will exploit any weakness. It has technology we don't understand. But it's still just one target, one creature. We have 12,000 soldiers. We have the Emperor's blessing. We will prevail. They saluted, returned to their posts. Lieutenant Crane lingered behind. Sir, permission to speak freely. I nodded. What if it's right? About the governor? About all of this? I looked at him for a long time. Then we're defending a corrupt system with our lives, and we'll die knowing we chose loyalty over justice. Is that what the Emperor wants, sir? I had no answer. I've been a soldier for 30 years. I've killed his enemies, bled for his Imperium. I don't know what he wants anymore. The final hours before midnight felt like standing on the edge of a blade. My command center was full of activity. Officers coordinating defensive positions, tech priests monitoring surveillance grids, Vox operators maintaining communication channels. Everything was perfect. Everything was ready. We'd created the most comprehensive defensive network Gravis Prime had ever seen. No infiltrator, no matter how skilled, could breach 12,000 soldiers and the palace's own security systems. I walked the ramparts one last time as the sun set, looked out over the Hive city, billions of souls living their lives, unaware that their entire government was about to be exposed as corrupt, unaware that their stability was built on lies. Sergeant Voss found me there. Sir, the men are ready. Whatever comes tonight, we'll stop it. I turned to him. Voss, in all your years of service, have you ever questioned whether we were fighting for the right side? He was quiet for a moment. Every day, sir. But I decided questioning doesn't matter. Following orders matters. Keeping people safe matters. Everything else is philosophy. And if the orders are wrong, if the people we're keeping safe are monsters, then we're soldiers, sir. We don't get to choose. We just serve. I nodded, dismissed him, stood alone on the ramparts as darkness fell over Gravis Prime. Somewhere out there, the Night Hunter was coming to expose everything, coming to tear down the comfortable lies we'd built our world upon. And I was going to try to stop it. Because that's what soldiers do. We follow orders, we defend the system, we serve without questioning, even when questioning is exactly what we should be doing. It came at midnight. Of course it came at midnight. Every alarm went dark simultaneously. Every Vox channel filled with static. Every surveillance system showed nothing but black screens. Then the screaming started from the outer perimeter. I ran to the command center, found my communications officer, staring at a tactical display showing 53 red indicators. 53 positions going dark. One after another, moving inward toward the palace. Contact! East wall! Something in the Vox cut off. Sniper teams reporting. Oh, Emperor, it's behind us. Gone. All units converge on. Static. It was moving through my entire defensive network like it wasn't there. Like we weren't there. I grabbed my bolt pistol, my command squad, ran toward the palace interior. Found Sergeant Voss and what remained of his platoon in the main atrium, weapons aimed at shadows. It's inside, sir. It's inside the palace. How many casualties? None dead, sir. Just unconscious, wounded. It's not killing us. It's just getting past us. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. I reached the governor's sanctum with 20 soldiers. Found the blast doors hanging open, not blown apart, not burned through, but unlocked from the inside using the governor's own access codes. The security room was full of unconscious guards, still breathing, just sleeping. "It's in there," Lieutenant Crane whispered, pointing at the governor's private office. I could hear voices, 2 people talking. One was Governor Malachi. The other was wrong. Deep, calm, measured, human but not human, I signaled my squad. Breach formation. Non-lethal if possible. Maximum force authorized. We went through the door. The governor was sitting at his desk, data slates spread around him, weeping. The creature stood behind him, and I finally saw it clearly. Not a Xenos, not a demon. Something worse. Something human-shaped wearing armor I didn't recognize. Technology I couldn't classify. Standing in shadow like shadow was a weapon. The cowl, the cape, the symbol on its chest. That bat sigil I'd been hunting for weeks. It turned to look at me, and I saw eyes behind the mask. Human eyes. Cold, calculating, absolutely certain. "Commander Halloran," it said in that too calm voice, "I've read your service record. 30 years of faithful service. Decorated for valor. Respected by your troops. A good soldier." I aimed my bolt pistol at its chest. "Identify yourself. By what authority do you operate?" It didn't move, didn't flinch. "I operate by the only authority that matters. Justice. I am here to expose what your Imperium chooses to ignore." Governor Malachi looked at me, face streaked with tears. "Halloran, please, please, it's going to transmit everything. Everyone will know. They'll execute me. They'll investigate the entire sector. The administratum will collapse the government. Millions will suffer during the transition. You have to stop it." The creature spoke again. "Your governor has embezzled 17 billion throne gelt, trafficked 43,000 human beings, ordered 198 murders, conspired with Xenos traders, falsified tithe records during active wartime. By your own Imperial law, these are capital offenses. I kept my weapon trained. What are you? What Xenos filth creates something like you?" It actually laughed, cold, bitter. "I'm human, Commander. More human than you've been in decades. I come from a place where one man decided justice couldn't be left to corrupt systems, where one man chose to become a symbol, where one man fought crime, no matter how powerful it was. There is no such place. No such man exists in the Imperium. No, not in your Imperium. That's the problem." It gestured at the data slates. I have evidence of systematic corruption throughout your planetary government, proof that would normally merit inquisitorial investigation. I intend to broadcast it across all Imperial channels in approximately 90 seconds. We'll kill you first, you'll try. Many of your soldiers will die in the attempt. I've calculated the odds. But ultimately, you'll fail, or you'll succeed and destroy all this evidence in the process. Evidence of crimes against the God Emperor you claim to serve. I looked at the governor, at the data slates, at my soldiers standing behind me, waiting for orders. Lieutenant Crane spoke quietly. "Sir, what if we just let it transmit? Let the authorities handle this properly?" Governor Malachi screamed. "The authorities know. They've always known. This is how the system works. We maintain stability. We keep the tithes flowing. We keep the Imperium functioning. If you expose every corrupt official, the entire structure collapses." The creature's voice was very calm. "Then perhaps it deserves to collapse." "You're talking about chaos," I shouted. "Billions depend on this government. The tithes feed the Imperial war machine. The Emperor's crusade requires our production. You destroy all of that for your alien concept of justice." It stepped forward. I tensed. My soldiers raised their weapons. "I've fought in darkness for 20 years in my world, Commander. I know what corruption looks like. I know how it justifies itself. Necessary evil. Lesser of two evils for the greater good. And I know what happens when good people defend evil systems because they're afraid of the alternative. We serve the Emperor. Our loyalty is absolute. Then prove it. Your Emperor demands loyalty, yes. But does he demand loyalty to corruption? Does he demand you protect those who steal from his crusade? Does he demand you become complicit in the very crimes you're sworn to prevent? I couldn't answer. Emperor, forgive me. I couldn't answer. My bolt pistol was shaking, my finger on the trigger. One shot. That's all it would take. But I looked at the data slates, at the evidence, at 30 years of crimes I'd ignored. "How long has this been happening?" I asked the governor. He slumped in his chair. "Does it matter? 70 years, a century? This is the Imperium, Halloran. This is what 10,000 years looks like. The strong take from the weak, the clever hide their sins. The powerful make the rules, and soldiers like you enforce those rules without asking why." The creature was counting down, 60 seconds until transmission. I thought about Sergeant Voss, about Lieutenant Crane, about 12,000 soldiers who trusted me to give them righteous orders. I thought about the oath I'd taken 30 years ago. To defend the Imperium against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Domestic. We always focus on foreign. 40 seconds. I lowered my weapon. The governor screamed. My soldiers stared at me in shock. Lieutenant Crane whispered, "Sir, I can't do it. I can't defend this. Not anymore." The creature nodded once. "A good soldier knows when to follow orders. A great soldier knows when orders are wrong." 20 seconds. I turned to my command squad. "Clear the room. Let it transmit. We'll report that we were unable to stop the Xenos infiltration in time. We'll face the consequences together." They hesitated. Then, one by one, they lowered their weapons. Governor Malachi was still screaming. "You're condemning us all! The Administratum will burn this world! The Inquisition will investigate everyone! You've doomed us!" The creature's hand moved to its belt. Something clicked. Transmission sent. For a moment, nothing happened. Just silence in the governor's office. the data slates glowing, the creature standing perfectly still, my soldiers watching me like I'd just committed the ultimate betrayal. Maybe I had. Then every Vox channel in the palace erupted with noise, voices shouting, officers demanding clarification. The transmission was spreading through the Hive's communication networks like wildfire. Every screen, every data port, every system suddenly displaying decades of corruption. The governor collapsed in his chair, hands covering his face. It's over. It's all over. The creature looked at me. You made the right choice, Commander. History will remember that. History will remember me as a traitor. Perhaps, but the God Emperor will know you chose his justice over human corruption. That should matter. It moved toward the window. My soldiers raised their weapons again instinctively, but I waved them down. Where will you go? I asked. It looked back at me. There are 17 more worlds in this sector with similar problems. Corruption the Administratum ignores. Crimes the Arbites won't investigate. People suffering because their leaders have decided comfort is more important than righteousness. You can't fix the Imperium. It's too big, too broken. No, but I can make it uncomfortable. I can force people like you to see what they've been ignoring. I can remind the Imperium that someone is watching. Someone is keeping score. The Inquisition will hunt you. They already are. I've been operating for 3 years across 5 sectors. They call me a demon, a Xenos infiltrator, an archaeotech abomination. They've never gotten close. Why are you doing this? What do you gain? It was quiet for a moment. In my world, I watched my parents die because corrupt men valued wealth over life. I swore an oath that night to fight corruption wherever it exists, to bring justice to those who think themselves above it, to become a symbol that criminals fear. Your world, where are you from? It touched something on its belt. The symbol on its chest seemed to glow in the darkness. Somewhere your Imperium has forgotten. Somewhere that understood justice doesn't come from systems. It comes from individuals willing to stand against the darkness. Before I could respond, it moved, faster than anything I'd ever seen. Through the window, glass shattering, cape spreading like wings, disappearing into the night air of Gravis Prime. My soldiers rushed to the window, looked down at the 1,000-meter drop. Nothing. Gone. Like it had never been there. Lieutenant Crane turned to me. Sir, what have we done? I looked at the governor, still weeping at his desk, at the data slates displaying his crimes, at my soldiers who'd followed my orders, even when those orders meant betraying everything we'd been taught. We served the Emperor, I said, his true will, not the corrupt reflection of it. The Vox channels were chaos now, reports flooding in from across the Hive, riots starting in the lower levels, Arbites mobilizing, Administratum officials fleeing their posts, the Ministorum calling for calm, while their own priests discovered evidence of their complicity. An entire planetary government collapsing in real time. Sergeant Voss entered the office, bolt rifle ready. Sir, we have incoming. Arbites enforcement teams, Administratum security. They're saying we aided a Xenos infiltrator. They're ordering our immediate surrender. I looked at my soldiers. 20 men who'd trusted me, who'd followed my orders into what might be the worst decision of their lives. We stand together, I said. We did what was right. If that's treason, then we're all traitors. Crane stepped forward. For the Emperor's true justice, sir, not the corrupted version we've been serving. One by one, my soldiers nodded, raised their weapons, formed a defensive perimeter around the governor's office. We might die here. Probably would die here. But at least we'd die knowing we'd chosen righteousness over comfort. The creature was right about one thing. Good people defending evil systems. That had been us. That had been me for 30 years. Not anymore. The door burst open. Arbite's stormtroopers in full combat armor, shock mauls charged, weapons aimed at my squad. Commander Victus Halloran, you are under arrest for aiding Xenos infiltration, dereliction of duty, and treason against the planetary governor. Surrender immediately. I looked at Governor Malachi, still sobbing at his desk, at the evidence of his crimes displayed on every screen, at the system I'd served faithfully for 3 decades. No, I said. They took us without a fight. I ordered my soldiers to stand down. No point in dying for a gesture when we could face judgment properly. The Arbites stripped our weapons, our rank insignia, our honor, marched us through the palace halls in mag cuffs, while officials watched with expressions mixing fear and satisfaction. We'd broken the most fundamental rule. We'd questioned the system. They separated us immediately. Different detention cells, different interrogation schedules, standard procedure for preventing coordinated testimonies. I was alone in a cell 3 meters by 3 meters, 1 cot, 1 waste reclamation unit, 1 flickering lumen strip. I'd put criminals in cells like this 1,000 times, never thought I'd occupy one myself. The interrogations started within hours. Arbites investigators, administratum officials, even a tech priest who wanted to know about the creature's technology. They asked the same questions in different ways, looking for inconsistencies, trying to build a case for execution. Why did you let it transmit? Why did you lower your weapon? Why did you betray your oath? Why did you choose a Xenos creature over the God Emperor's appointed governor? I gave them the truth. Every time. The governor was corrupt. The evidence was legitimate. I chose the Emperor's justice over human corruption. They didn't like that answer. 3 days into detention, they brought in the recordings, surveillance footage of the governor's office, audio of our conversation, visual proof of me lowering my weapon, ordering my soldiers to stand down, allowing the transmission, incontrovertible evidence of treason. Your entire career, Commander, 30 years of faithful service, destroyed in 1 moment of weakness. Why? It wasn't weakness, I said. It was the first moment of strength I'd shown in decades. The interrogator, a hard-faced woman with Arbites insignia, leaned forward. You enabled Xenos infiltration. You violated chain of command. You undermined planetary stability. Billions of people are suffering because you decided your personal judgment superseded Imperial authority. Billions of people were already suffering. They just didn't know it was their own government causing it. She slammed her fist on the table. The system works because we trust it, because we follow orders, because we don't question. You've introduced chaos into a functioning society. It wasn't functioning. It was rotting. We were just pretending not to smell it. She left. Another interrogator came. Then another. They worked in shifts. I lost track of time. Day and night meant nothing in the cell. On what might have been day 5, they showed me the aftermath reports. 47 officials arrested. 233 under investigation. Governor Malachi executed by administratum decree. 3 Arbites precincts dissolved. 12,000 cases reopened. The entire Upper Hive government had collapsed, riots in the streets, production quotas missed, tithes delayed. My decision had created exactly the chaos they'd warned about. Are you satisfied, Commander? Are you happy with what you've caused? I looked at the reports, at the names of arrested officials, at the list of crimes being investigated, human trafficking, murder, embezzlement, extortion, decades of abuse finally being acknowledged. Yes, I said, I'm satisfied. The Inquisition arrived on what my guards told me was day 8. I knew because the entire detention block went silent. Even hardened Arbeits officers fear the Inquisition. They brought me to a different interrogation room. Cleaner. Better lit. A woman sat across from me. Maybe 40 standard years, with augmetic eyes that glowed faintly red. No introduction. No pleasantries. Commander Victus Halloran. 30 years of service. Decorated veteran. Respected officer. She opened a file. And then you encountered something that broke you. It didn't break me. It fixed me. She smiled, not warmly. Tell me about the creature. I told her everything. Every detail I could remember. The surveillance footage. The methodology. The interrogations. The technology, the symbol, the final confrontation. She listened without interrupting, those augmetic eyes recording everything. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she showed me a different file, surveillance reports from other systems, other worlds, similar patterns, infiltration, investigation, exposure of corruption, then disappearance. This creature, this night hunter as your soldiers called it, has hit 17 worlds across 5 sectors, always the same methodology, always targeting corruption that local authorities ignore. It's systematically auditing the Imperium's hidden failures. Is that heresy? I asked. She closed the file. I don't know, Commander. It operates like an inquisitor, but answers to no order. It enforces Imperial law, but violates every protocol. It seems to serve the Emperor's will, but rejects his structure. It's unprecedented. What happens now? She stood up. You'll be court-martialed, probably executed. Your entire command structure will be dismantled. The Administratum will use you as an example, a warning to others who might question the system. Is that justice? She looked at me with those red eyes. You tell me, Commander. You're the one who chose alien justice over Imperial order. Was it worth it? I thought about the data slates, about the evidence, about 47 arrested officials and 12,000 reopened cases, about people who'd been suffering in silence, finally being heard. Yes, it was worth it. She walked to the door, paused. For what it's worth, Commander, I've spent 20 years hunting heretics and traitors. I know the difference between corruption and righteousness. What you did, it wasn't treason. It was the most loyal act I've seen in a decade. Then why am I being executed? Because the Imperium can't function if soldiers start thinking for themselves. Because stability requires obedience, even when obedience means defending evil. Because the system is more important than individual righteousness. She left. The guards returned me to my cell. I sat on the cot, staring at the wall, thinking about what she'd said. The system is more important than individual righteousness. That's what I'd believed for 30 years. That's what had let me ignore so much suffering. The Night Hunter understood something we'd forgotten. Systems serve people. When systems become corrupt, when they cause more harm than good, someone has to stand against them, even if it costs everything. I'm writing this from a detention cell, waiting for my trial. They've stripped my rank, confiscated my decorations, branded me a traitor. Maybe I am. The court-martial is scheduled for 3 days from now. The verdict is already decided. The administratum needs an example, a warning, someone to blame for the chaos that's consumed Gravis Prime since the transmission. Lieutenant Crane and my soldiers are in different cells. I don't know if they'll be executed too. I hope not. They were following my orders. They trusted me. That shouldn't cost them their lives. But this is the Imperium. Trust and obedience are the same thing. And we disobeyed. I've had time to think, too much time, about my 30 years of service, about every order I followed without questioning, about every crime I ignored because investigating would be inconvenient, about every time I chose comfort over righteousness. The Emperor protects, they say. But who protects people from the Emperor's servants? I keep thinking about what that creature said. Good people defending evil systems. That was me. That was all of us. We served faithfully. We followed orders. We maintained stability. And we enabled horror. Every single day. My guards tell me the riots have subsided. The administratum has installed a provisional government. Production is recovering. Tithes will resume on schedule. The system is healing itself, they say, proving its resilience, proving that my actions were unnecessary disruption. But they also tell me about the trials, about corrupt officials facing judgment, about cases being reopened, about families finally getting answers about disappeared loved ones, about workers in the manufactorums receiving proper rations for the first time in decades. The system is healing, yes, but it's healing by cutting out the infection we'd been ignoring. A priest visited me yesterday, offered to hear my confession, promised the Emperor's forgiveness if I showed proper contrition. I asked him a question instead. If the Emperor demands loyalty to his servants, but his servants are corrupt, what does he truly want from us? The priest had no answer. He blessed me and left. I don't think the Emperor wants blind obedience. I think he wants righteousness. I think he wants servants who will stand against corruption, even when it's difficult, even when it costs everything. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just a traitor justifying his betrayal. Maybe the creature corrupted me with Xenos ideology. Maybe I failed the test of faith. I don't know anymore. What I do know is this. Someone needed to hold us accountable. Someone needed to make us see what we'd become. Someone needed to force us to choose between comfortable corruption and painful justice, even if that someone was an impossible thing from an impossible place, even if that someone wore darkness like a weapon and justice like armor, even if acknowledging that truth condemns my soul. The reports say it's moved on to another world now. Another corrupt government, another necessary evil that's become unnecessary horror. Part of me hopes it succeeds. Part of me prays it stopped. Both parts know the Imperium will never be the same. This morning, they brought me a data slate. Official notification of my court-martial. The charges are comprehensive. Aiding Xenos infiltration. Dereliction of duty. Treason against planetary authority. Undermining Imperial stability. Each one carries a death sentence. I signed the acknowledgement, returned the data slate. The guard looked at me with something I didn't expect. Respect. My brother was one of the workers in Manufactorium 7, he said quietly. Worked himself to death-meeting quotas while the overseers skimmed the profits. Your creature exposed that. They arrested the overseers. My brother's death finally means something. He left before I could respond. I've been a soldier for 30 years. I know what death looks like. I know what sacrifice means. I've sent men into battles knowing they wouldn't return. I've made hard choices for the Emperor's glory. This is just another hard choice, another sacrifice. Except this time, I'm the one being sacrificed. But if my execution means the system thinks twice before defending corruption, if it means other soldiers question orders that serve criminals instead of the Emperor, if it means even one person suffers less because we've finally acknowledged the rot, then maybe it's worth it. The Emperor protects. I've said that prayer 10,000 times. Believed it absolutely. But maybe he protects by sending nightmares to punish those who fail him. Maybe he protects by forcing us to see our own corruption. Maybe he protects by making the cost of comfort higher than the cost of righteousness. Maybe that's what justice looks like when corruption calls itself order. Maybe that's what we deserve. 3 days until my trial, 3 days until execution. I'm not afraid. I've faced death before. Orc war bands, tyrannid swarms, heretic uprisings. This is just another enemy, another battle. Except this time, I'm not sure which side I'm on. The last thing I saw before they took me to this cell was that symbol on the palace wall, burned into marble that stood for 3 centuries. A bat, wings spread, watching, judging, reminding us that somewhere, somehow, someone is keeping score. And we've been failing the test for a very long time. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But apparently, there's also something worse. Truth. Accountability. Justice that doesn't bend to convenience or power. The Imperium calls that heresy. The creature called it righteousness. I don't know which is correct. I just know that for the first time in 30 years, I chose what felt right over what was ordered. If that damns me, so be it. At least I'll die knowing I served the Emperor's true will, not the corrupted reflection we'd made of it, not the comfortable lie we'd been living. The truth, however terrible, however costly, however heretical. The Emperor protects, and sometimes he does it by burning away everything we thought we knew. I'm ready for my trial, ready for my execution, ready to face whatever judgment awaits, because I finally understand. We weren't the victims. We were never the victims. We were the corruption. We were the crime. We were the evil hiding behind loyalty and obedience and necessity. The Night Hunter didn't invade the Imperium. It held up a mirror. And we couldn't stand what we saw. This concludes another classified file from the Imperial Records Division. If you enjoyed this, please like this video and subscribe for more forbidden knowledge from the archives. Sometimes the greatest heresy is forcing the Imperium to face its own reflection.